Okay guys, as our class is cancelled for tomorrow again, so I'm going to talk to you about chapter number 6. So I'm not going to complete the whole chapter, but I'm going to complete maybe two parts of this, and you guys can go over this and whenever we have the class. So this Tuesday I'm pushing the test to Tuesday. Okay, so we planned for this Tuesday, so then I pushed to Thursday, and because tomorrow's class is also cancelled, I'm pushing it to next Tuesday. So we will have our test on next Tuesday, and so whenever we resume our classes, our chapters, I will be discussing all the chapters for which I'm giving you the videos. Okay, so please go over these videos, go over the videos, other videos I'm posting. So I will be having a discussion with you whenever we start our chapters. Okay, so in chapter number 6 we are going to talk about basically about energy, and we are also going to talk about enzymes. Okay, so this is very important chapter from cancer point of view, because you will see a lot of enzymes get over expressed in cancer, and there are a lot of drugs in the clinic which are basically enzyme inhibitors. Okay, so it's a very important topic for this course. So let's talk about energy today in this video. What is energy? Energy is basically the ability to do work or to bring about some change. Okay, and we all need energy. Without energy we cannot function, and that energy comes from the food we eat, and that energy we use to do our activities that is required for our growth, even for the metabolism and for the reproduction. And the food we eat, basically we either eat plants or we eat the people who eat meat. So those animals, they are dependent on the plants. Okay, so we eat either plants or we eat animals, basically, if we are eating meat, right? So those animals whose meat we are eating, they were dependent on the plants. So we are directly or indirectly dependent on the plants, and plants are dependent on sun's light for doing the photosynthesis. So we are all basically depending on the sun for our energy. Now energy can be in different forms. Okay, it can be mechanical energy, it can be chemical energy, it can be nuclear energy, it can be radiation energy. So energy is in different forms. The mechanical energy can be of two kinds: kinetic energy or the potential energy. So potential energy means the energy which is stored. Okay, potential is the stored energy, and kinetic energy is the energy which is associated with the motion. So if a ball is rolling, so or if you are moving, so the energy you are having is the kinetic energy. And whatever energy is inside you, okay, whatever the energy is possessed by you, that is your potential energy, and that is because of your structure, so or the food you have eaten. So basically the potential energy is because of your structure or the chemical composition of you. Potential energy can be also because of the location, basically. So it is because of the structure or the location, which means that um, if you are standing on a hill, you have more potential energy as compared to if you are on the ground. So why you have more energy when you are on a mountain or on a hilltop? Because earth's gravitational pull is always pulling us towards itself, right? But if we have to go uphill, we have to spend some energy to move against that gravitational force. So there is some energy stored in us when we reach uphill. Okay, so that is all energy which we have spent to move against gravitational pull and go uphill. So potential energy is because of the structure as well as the location. And another form of energy is chemical energy. It's energy which is stored in the chemical bonds. So you can see here a picture, like we are basically, as I just said, we are basically dependent on the sun's light, because with the help of the sun's light these plants do the photosynthesis and they make their food. And some of us, we directly eat the plants, so we are directly dependent on the plants. And some of us, we are dependent on the animals, and these animals, they depend on the plants. So we are directly or indirectly dependent on the plants, and the plants depend on the solar energy. And you can see here a lot of like heat. What does it mean? So see, all this in this picture, the energy is basically flowing. So sun's energy is being given to the plants. Those plants are giving that energy to the animals, right? So at every step when the energy is being transferred, some part of the energy will be always lost as heat energy. Okay, so as we will proceed in this lecture, you will see that this release of heat is basically waste of energy, because this heat cannot be used to perform some work. But in every energy transformation, or in every transfer process or energy transformation, there is always some part of energy released as heat. Okay, there are two laws of thermodynamics. The first law says that energy cannot be created nor it can be destroyed, but it can be changed. So energy always keeps on changing its form, but it is never created nor destroyed. And second law says that whenever there is a transformation of energy, whenever there is the change of energy from one form to another form, there is always some part of the energy which is released as heat. So energy cannot be changed from one form to another form without the loss of a usable energy. So the release of energy in the form of heat is basically waste of energy, because heat cannot be used to perform some. So heat energy which is being released in every energy transformation, it cannot be used to perform any work or any function. So that is why it's considered waste of energy. So here is example when these plants they are using sunlight to do the photosynthesis. So this is the plant cell. It has these chloroplasts. In this process also some part of the energy will be released as heat, and this is basically showing you when we use the energy, when we eat the food and we use that energy to perform some function, like if you are doing some exercise, you are contracting your muscles. In that process also, so to move your muscles you need some energy, and from where that energy is going to come? That energy is going to come from the food you have eaten. So how does the energy get extracted from the food you have eaten? It comes by the process called cellular respiration. So in that process also some part of the energy will be released as heat energy. So that energy is basically waste of energy. So heat released from cellular respiration or photosynthesis dissipates into the environment. So that heat will be going to the environment. Heat energy is not useful, it is not available to do work. Heat that dissipates into environment cannot be captured into more useful form of energy. So this is all what I have been saying. According to second law of thermodynamics, no process requiring energy conversion is ever 100% efficient, which means that whenever there is going to be energy transformation, or whenever there will be some process in which energy is being converted into another form, there will be always some energy lost as heat energy. So according to second law, no process requiring energy conversion is ever 100% efficient, which means that if you start with 100 units of energy, of some chemical energy, and that energy is getting converted into some other form of energy, so 100% of the energy is never going to be converted into the 100% of the another form of energy. There will be always some part of the energy lost as heat. The second law of thermodynamics can be stated in another way. Every energy transformation makes the universe less organized and more disordered. And why it makes it more disordered? Because as you know, in every energy transformation, there will be some part of the energy released as heat. And what does heat do? Heat is a form of energy, right? It is going to make, so whenever in the environment, some of the energy is getting dissipated, that heat is going to make the molecules move faster. Okay, so when those molecules they move faster, they are going to cause some chaos. Okay, so when the molecules are moving faster, they are getting more disordered and less organized. So the second law of thermodynamics can be stated another way. Every energy transformation makes the universe less organized and more disordered, because when there is a release of heat, the molecules are moving fast. Okay, so they are making the surroundings more disordered. And to measure the amount of disorder, there's a term called entropy. Entropy refers to the relative amount of disorganization. The processes used by cells are energy transformation. So in the in our cells, there are a lot of processes going on in which energy is being transformed, and in every transformation of energy there will be release of some energy will be released as heat, and this heat is going to make the molecules in this environment move faster. And when the molecules are moving faster, it's increasing the disorder, and the scientific name for disorder is entropy, because entropy is the measure of disorder. So we can say that in every energy transformation, entropy increases. So every process that occurs in cells increases the total entropy of the universe. This is very, very important. Okay, so the total entropy of the universe increases, because in every energy process there will be some part of the energy which is going to be released as heat. So this is all what we have been talking about. So this is another example, like if you eat food, so your food has different biomolecules, proteins, carbohydrates, lipids. Let's talk about a simple molecule called glucose. Now when your glucose is getting metabolized, okay, so when it is getting metabolized, there will be release of some energy. That is why you have eaten, because you need energy. And water and carbon dioxide are the byproducts. So you can see here, so when the glucose is being converted into carbon dioxide and water in this process, glucose is your reactant, and carbon dioxide and water are your products or the byproducts. So glucose was more organized, carbon dioxide and water, they are less organized. Glucose had more potential energy, carbon dioxide and water has less potential energy, because the energy is released. That's that energy you are going to use now. So that is why carbon dioxide and water, they have less potential energy. So this glucose, the glucose itself was less stable and it has less entropy. Now this carbon dioxide and water, they are now more stable and they have more entropy. Now so this was all the background about the energy and the laws of thermodynamics. Now let's see what is metabolism and how does energy transformations takes place, and what is energy currency. So metabolism is basically sum of all the chemical reactions going on inside the cells. So we have two kinds of metabolic reactions going on in our cells. They are called catabolic reactions and the anabolic reactions. Now what are catabolic reactions? Catabolic reactions are the reactions in which bigger biomolecules are being converted into the smaller biomolecules, like the proteins are getting broken into the amino acids. Okay, and in this process, when proteins are getting converted into the amino acids, lot of energy is going to be released. Okay, because proteins, they have more potential energy as compared to the amino acids. And in the anabolic reactions, the opposite. In the anabolic reactions means the building reactions. In the anabolic reactions, from the small amino acids, proteins are going to be formed. Those are anabolic reactions, and these kind of processes require energy. So when you eat the food, that food has proteins, lipids, and the carbohydrates. They're big molecules. Inside your body, they're going to be converted into the smaller biomolecules. So those are catabolic reactions, and in those processes, energy is going to be released, and that energy you are going to use. And we will be also talking about how that energy is stored in your body. And anabolic reactions are building up reactions in which smaller biomolecules, they are going to be combined and they're going to make bigger biomolecules. Like from amino acids, proteins will be formed, and you know where proteins are required in your cells, you know where lipids are required for in your cells, you know where carbohydrates are required in your cells. So your cells also need to make its own biomolecules. Okay, so for those processes energy is required, and those kind of reactions are called anabolic reactions. So now so in a reaction, just to give you what does a, because we are going to talk about some reactions. So if this is A plus B makes C plus D, so we will call A and B, these are reactants, and C and D, they are the products. So we need to know a few terms before we actually talk about some kind of reactions. Now, what is free energy? Free energy is the amount of energy available to do some function, or the amount of energy to do the work. So how to find the free energy? So the free energy of a reaction is delta G. And what is delta G? It is the change in free energy. Delta G means, delta means change. The change in free energy after a reaction is calculated by subtracting the free energy of the reactants from that of the products. So delta G, which is the free energy of a reaction, or the change in the free energy, you can calculate by subtracting the free energy of the reactants from the products. That will give you the free energy. Now delta G, or the change in free energy, can be 0, or it can be more than 0, which means the reaction is positive, or it can be less than 0, then it is negative. So what are exergonic reactions and what are endergonic reactions? Now the exergonic reactions are the ones where energy is released. Okay, and endergonic reactions are the ones where energy input is required. So exergonic reactions means the energy is going to be released. So as we just discussed what a reaction is, you start with the reactants, like A plus B makes C plus D. So A and B, these are reactants, C and D are the products. So what will be exergonic reaction? Exergonic reaction means the reaction in which energy is going to be released, which means if the reaction is proceeding from A plus B to C plus D, so for a reaction to release energy means energy will be only released when the reactants have more free energy as compared to the products. Only then the energy can be released. So which means that exergonic reactions will be the reactions in which the energy will be released, and in those kind of reactions your reactants will have more free energy as compared to the products, and these kind of reactions will always have delta G negative. And these kind of reactions are spontaneous reactions because reactants have a lot of energy and they can release energy and the reaction can proceed. On the other hand, endergonic reactions are the reactions in which the input of energy is required, which means that reactants have less energy as compared to the products. So in those kind of reactions, delta G is going to be positive, and these kind of reactions are non-spontaneous. They need energy. So what is now ATP? Now you understand what are exergonic reactions and what are endergonic reactions. So now what is ATP? ATP is energy currency. Okay, it's the energy currency. Like for the money, we have a dollar bill as the energy currency. For the inside of a body, ATP is the energy currency. Now ATP is a chemical. ATP is a chemical. Let's see what is its structure. It is basically it's basically a nucleotide. It's a nucleotide. And what is this nucleotide made of? It has adenine, which is your nitrogen base, ribose, which is a 5-carbon sugar, and it has 3 phosphate groups. Now this is the real thing. So this is a nucleotide. It has ribose, it's a pentose sugar. It has adenine as the nitrogen base, and it has 3 phosphate groups. So if you remember, the charge on phosphate group is negative. To keep the 3 phosphate groups, which are all negatively charged together, you need lot of energy. So to keep 3 negatively charged phosphate groups together, you need lot of energy. So from where does this energy comes? To keep these phosphate groups together, lot of energy is required. This energy comes from the food you eat. Now see here what happens. So when you have eaten food, inside your body lot of energy is released. What will happen to that energy? Now this ATP is a chemical in our body. So ATP, there is always ATP and ADP cycle going on in our cells. Now what is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate. What is ADP? It's adenosine diphosphate. Adenosine diphosphate means it has 2 phosphate groups. Adenosine triphosphate means it has 3 phosphate groups. So when you have eaten food, it gets metabolized, lot of energy is released. That energy will be used to combine one more phosphate group to ADP. So when one more phosphate group attaches to the ADP, it becomes